Darius Jungle is now the undisputed most OP champ in the game, while Skarner is the weakest champ after his nerfs. So we've got all this and much more to cover in today's video as we provide you guys with an update to the solo queue tier list for every single role. And are you sick of losing games from bad teammates? Well, at SkillCapped, we turn your frustrating losses into satisfying wins. Take our wildly popular exclusive courses that teach you the secrets to winning as a top laner, jungler, mid laner, AD carry, and support. Then pair that with our other courses on how to counter OP top and mid laners, master your jungle clears, or check out our bronze to diamond series. We even have courses on macro, wave control, trading, settings and hotkeys, CSing, vision, mechanics, low elo mistakes, and the list goes on. Then head on over to our Smurf commentaries. Simply select the champion you want to master and get guides from challenger experts teaching how to play your champion in the exact rank you're stuck in. Our service really does work. That's why we offer a rank up guarantee. If you don't rank up while actively using SkillCapped, you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below right now to get the rank you've always dreamed of. Starting off up in the top lane, a champ who has gained a ton of strength over the past few patches, who we are giving a push into the S tier for 25.5 is Quinn. Quinn W just got directly buffed, and she has also been loving the recent electrocute buffs, which has resulted in her win rate jumping about 3% higher from where it was at the start of the season. Quinn's lane dominance just makes her a great solo queue top laner because you have the ability to solo kill your opponent in most matchups. Quinn wins over 53% of the time into a few of the most played, more annoying top lane fighters like Garen, Darius, Mbessa, and Riven, while her only meta matchup that she struggles to find a lot of success against is Malphite. Just the fact Malphite can stack armor to nullify Quinn's lethality stacking build and then out-impact Quinn in teamfights the later games go makes it a more difficult champ for Quinn to win against, so as long as you're banning out Malphite, there aren't many other tops that you really have to worry about. The core build working really well for Quinn right now has you rushing Profane Hydra with Edge of Night and the Collector as standard second and third pickups. You also take the recently buffed Symbiotic Souls for your boots on Quinn, and this just allows her to impact the map incredibly well. Best rune page is going to consist of Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Grizzly Mementos, and Treasure Hunter, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are for secondaries. The top lane champ who has gained the most amount of power from last patch to now is Poppy. Poppy ended up getting some adjustments this patch that Riot intended to land as nerfs for support, but ended up more positive for top lane, and they actually hit the mark pretty well with these ones. Support ended up losing about 1% win rate, while top lane actually gained well over 1%. Poppy's scaling on her passive shield and her health were both increased, while E saw its bonus AD ratio increased, so some really nice mid to late game buffs for Poppy top. With the AD ratio going up on Poppy's E, it's made an already underrated rush item even stronger for the champ, as Sundered Sky is heavily outperforming Sunfire Aegis. The best solo queue build for Poppy has you rushing Sundered Sky into Winter's Approach second and Unending Despair third. It's just a really nice mix of durability and damage, as the Sundered Sky rush allows you to have more kill threat early on, while transitioning into tank from then on out helps Poppy be that front line for her team in the mid to late game. If you've been looking for an answer to Mbessa, then Poppy is a no-brainer pickup right now, with Poppy W doing an amazing job at shutting down the mobility that Mbessa has. Overall, just a great top lane pickup now after the changes this patch, and we're moving Poppy into the S tier. So if we have a look at the top lane tier list, the upper echelon won't be any different from where it was in the pre-patch tier list. Urgot, Kayle, and Warwick continue to excel above most other top lane champs and make up the OP tier for top lane. Besides Quinn, another range top who has very quietly been a great performer this season but has really flown under the radar is Heimerdinger. Heimer is getting bumped up into S tier for this patch, and we definitely should have had him there for the past few patches, but just kind of forgot about the pick due to it being more niche. What makes Heimer so great right now is that he fits into the mold of how Season 15 works extremely well. His early game power ties into the feats of strength objective extremely well, and his teamfight presence makes his ability to fight around Otacon absolutely amazing. Heimer is also super easy to pick up and find success with right away, so he's overall a really good but underrated top if you're looking for some less stressful elo right now. So for the jungle tier list in 25.5, it definitely looks like we made the correct decision in moving Darius into the OP tier during our pre-patch tier list, as he's absolutely exploded in popularity. The craziest thing though is that even with Darius becoming the second most played jungler only behind Lee Sin, his win rate did not drop but actually went up despite more players first timing him. This is one of the best indicators of how OP a champ actually is, because generally with a big play rate spike, you will expect a bit of a win rate dip, but that's just not been the case with Darius, which further solidifies his incredible standing in meta. Darius jungle's clear is amazing, his early dueling strength is great, and his mid-game spike of swiftness boots with Ghostblade allows him to steamroll through his opponents. So it's not really a hot take to say that if Darius jungle is not banned out for 25.5, then he should be the highest priority pick, as he's going to be the only champ in the OP tier for jungle due to being way stronger than everyone else. Now, if Darius is banned out but you still want to play a more unconventional jungle pick, Yorick is still an exceptional champ even after his nerf this patch. It's kind of funny how things play out, because Yorick is arguably the second second strongest jungler for solo queue right now, but he just hasn't seen that same kind of play rate spike that Darius has. If there's one jungler you really need to stay away from for 25.5, it's Skarner. Prior to the nerfs, he was sitting around a 47% win rate, which was already pretty bad for solo queue, but now the nerfs have gone through, it's dropped to an abysmal 44%. Even in the higher elos, where Skarner tends to be a lot stronger, his win rate is down at 46%, so he's not even a good pickup for the elite tiers anymore either. So moving on to mid lane now, one of the new trends we are seeing for this patch is the emergence of Yuntal wild arrows on Yasuo. Of course, this is because Yuntal got buffed this patch to where the passive crit stacking per auto attack was doubled for melee champs. Due to the buffs, play rate of Yuntal on Yasuo has doubled, while its win rate has gone up around 3%. Once you get to 2 items on Yasuo, the power spike is just so massive if you have wild arrows. Reason being is because the passive on wild arrows provides you attack speed, and this passive cooldown is reduced by 1 second every time you auto attack, but if that auto attack is a crit, the cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds instead. Since when Yasuo has 2 items, he will have 100% crit chance, every auto attack he uses will reduce the cooldown of the Yuntal passive by 2 seconds, so Yasuo is able to get max value out of the item. Crit rush items in general have seen an uptick in power on Yasuo due to the buff he got last patch, where your crits no longer deal 10% less damage. PD and Kraken are actually winning more than Blade of the Ruined King now while it's still early in the patch, so the data on Yuntal is not super accurate, but so far it's winning about 2% more than Blade. Where Yuntal is really going to win out compared to all other options is in its straight up all-in power. From stats, you get 35% attack speed while the passive provides 30%, so that's 65% attack speed in total. The Yuntal rush does look very promising so far, and we'll have to see if it catches on more in the coming patches. So if we take a look at the mid lane tier list, there's not a whole lot of shuffling going on for mid patch. One change we are making is moving Cho'Gath back into the OP tier for mid lane, as the nerfs did not hit him hard enough to warrant a push down. It was a pretty good chunk of damage taken off of Cho's abilities for this patch, but it's really the build that is making him so strong right now, so it looks like unless Riot heavily nerfs the numbers on Cho's abilities, or just nerfs the items he's running, he's going to remain a very powerful pick. If you guys haven't been keeping up lately, the TLDR is that Cho can run a heavy movement speed build of Shurelya's, Deadman's, and Symbiotic Souls as his core items to just run people down and easily full combo squishies with very little counterplay. For a complete breakdown of how to play the pick, our challenger expert Shori has a new video in our daily update course detailing how to abuse Cho for free elo. He's also got a complete full game commentary uploaded as well, so we have lots of content on our site to get you smashing games with Cho'Gath mid. Zed and Aurora were the only other mids that got changed for this patch, and the adjustments have played out to our expectations. Zed ended up gaining about 1% win rate, so he's on the cusp of being back in a good spot for solo queue, but just not quite there. As for Aurora, it was the opposite for her, as she lost over 1% win rate and now has fallen to being one of the more suboptimal solo queue pickups as we ever placed in the B tier. So for the ADC tier list right now, this patch didn't do a whole lot to shake up the meta, which means that Jinx and Vayne remain on top as 2 of the strongest carries. Players are finally starting to wake up to Tristana being a good pick in meta, as she's seen a nice play rate spike for this patch, and we had just moved her into the S tier for pre-patch, which is looking like the correct decision. Tristana is very strong right now with her wild arrows and Infinity Edge core, as the amount of instant burst threat that you have with this core is incredible. We had high hopes that Aphelios would see a boost up past a lot of the B tier ADCs in power due to his buff this patch, but the buff has turned out pretty negligible, so we're dropping him back into the B tier for mid patch. Ashe was the only other ADC change for this patch, and her nerf more aligned with what we were expecting. Ashe lost exactly 1% win rate from the nerf, but the change wasn't quite enough to push her below that A tier level, so that's where she will reside for the time being. If players actually ran the correct build on Ashe, then her overall win rate would have been even higher, as Yuntal Rush has been outperforming Kraken for the past couple of patches, but the majority of Ashe players have yet to swap over. As a matter of fact, it's the 2-item core of Wild Arrows into Phantom Dancer that is winning the most on Ashe right now, and we highlighted this setup in our OP builds video for 25.5, so you should already know that. So the big change to support for this patch, which has resulted in most melee supports climbing in strength, was the buff to unflinching. The buff wasn't anything too over the top, but considering that picks like Braum and Thresh were already in very solid spots last patch, the buff to unflinching has really solidified them as the most OP engaged supports. For the first time in a very long time, Poppy is no longer ranked in the S tier or above for support, as the nerfs she received this patch were finally enough to push her down in power. With that being said, by no means is Poppy a bad pick, as she still sits in a good A tier spot. Seraphine was the only support who got directly buffed for this patch, and the buff has played out to what we were expecting. Seraphine remains behind the likes of Lulu, Karma, and Nami when it comes down to that powerful solo queue enchanter, but she's still a very respectable A tier pickup. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit skillcapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to be all for our 25.5 mid-patch tier list update. Thank you all for watching. watching, and we'll see you in the next one.